China's new CPC leadership has just met the press. General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, Xi Jinping, introduced members of the new leadership and ran through future prospects. CGTN's Marquis has more.
At the first plenum of the 19th CPC Central Committee, 25 were elected as members of the Communist Party's decision-making organ, the CPC Political Bureau, also known as the Politburo. Among them, 7 were further appointed as members of the Politburo's Standing Committee. General Secretary Xi Jinping gave a detailed introduction of the group while they meet the press for the first time.
在刚才召开的中共19届
We have just held the first plenary session of the 19th Central Committee and elected a new central leadership. I was re-elected General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee. I see this as not just approval of my work, but also encouragement that will spur me on. Now I wish to present to you the other 6 members who have also been elected to the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau.
常委同志，李克强同志，
Comrade 李克强
栗战书同志，
Comrade 栗战书
汪洋同志，
Comrade 汪洋
王沪宁同志，
Comrade 王沪宁
赵乐际同志，
Comrade 赵乐际
韩正同志。
and Comrade 韩正。
其中李克强同志是18届中央局常委。
Comrade 李克强 served on the Political Bureau Standing Committee of the 18th CPC Central Committee, while all the others were members of the Political Bureau of the 18th CPC Central Committee. You can learn more about them from the media.
In his speech, General Secretary Xi Jinping also said he hopes the new leadership will act accordingly, abiding by new principles and rules under the new political environment in this new era.
经过长期努力，中国特色社会主义
With decades of hard work, socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era. In this new context, we must get a new look and, more importantly, make new accomplishments. The coming 5 years between the 19th and the 20th Party Congress is a period in which the time frames of the 2 centenary goals will converge. Not only must we deliver the first centenary goal, we must also embark on the journey towards the second centenary goal. As I look ahead to the next 5 years, I see several important junctures and signposts.
The 19th CPC National Congress was concluded on Tuesday. The Congress voted to include Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era into the party constitution. Under the leadership of General Secretary Xi, the CPC will continue to lead the Chinese people to build a moderately prosperous society and realize the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation.
And for on these developments out of Beijing, I'm joined by CGTN's Lindy Mtungana. She's live for us in Beijing. Lindy, good to see you there. Now, the new leadership of China has just been unveiled to the press. You attended the press there. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, thanks, Beatrice. Indeed, as you mentioned, we were there at that press conference. It was an invitation-only press conference. So, in fact, about 200 or so journalists, both from Chinese media and foreign reporters, foreign journalists, were in this room, tightly packed in there, eagerly awaiting what, of course, is one of the most significant political events, and many, of course, in China watching it, and indeed around the world. Now, of course, in that report, it's mentioned who the top 7 are. General Secretary Xi Jinping re-elected by the CPC, and Li Keqiang, perhaps that's at least one familiar name for those following the story from outside of China. He is the premier of the country and a man that we know has previously served in this high-level Politburo Standing Committee of the CPC. It was a very confident, seemingly warm Xi Jinping that entered the room. He waved and he smiled and delivered a very confident yet short address in which he really stated some of those key milestones that lie ahead for the CPC, but also described the party as a servant of the people, a vanguard of the times, and a force that will drive China's development and progress. I must say, Beatrice, for us as journalists sitting there, knowing of course that the CPC is the world's biggest political party, it is the most important political party here in China, for us to be seated there looking at the top 7, you knew that you were witnessing a very important moment in history.
Well, Lindy, what happens now going forward? What is the expectation on how China is going to steer its foreign policy and its global engagements?
Well, it wasn't too much of a surprise that in that address, Xi Jinping made an effort to talk about his diplomatic vision. He spoke of working with other nations to build a global community with a shared future. It's something that we've become familiar with. He said this a number of times, but once again reiterated this sense of a purpose that we're looking towards a peaceful, rather peace and development for all of humanity. It's a rhetoric that, as I say, we've come to associate with Xi Jinping, and I think as far as Africa is concerned, it means a continuation of what we've seen under the 18th CPC over the last 5 years, a strengthening of ties, a deepening of relations, boosting that mutual cooperation between China and Africa, and just a sign of how open and ready to welcome the world that China is under Xi Jinping. He did address the media specifically. He said that the media is welcome to come to China, to experience the country, to see more of it and report on different aspects of the country. But he asked that media is always, that mustn't, rather that they're not looking for praise from the media, but objectivity. And indeed, I think this at least just gives us some idea as to how Xi Jinping will steer an open relation with China and the world.
Right, Lindy Mtungana for us there in Beijing.